Hi, in today's video I want to share with you how I manage ADHD and autistic overwhelm. Yeah, I was getting myself into a bit of a mess really. I was getting to quite a negative, despondent state, to be honest. And I was really struggling, I've got all these content ideas, but I don't really feel like I'm connecting with the audience. I need to create maybe more personal content. I need to maybe stop just using auto cue so much and just talk on camera like I am today. This actually seems to be going okay, touch wood. And yeah, all these kind of things. And I was stalling. And one of the things that happens in our brain is that when we stall, when we kind of like procrastinate, we start to give a message to our brain that the thing that we're avoiding is, there must be a reason to avoid it. Procrastination definitely has an element of anxiety within it. It's what I call the Frankenstein brain, the amygdala here, which is like fight, flight, like run away or freeze. And when you have ADHD or autism and executive function challenges, then we often end up in avoidance. And putting it off. And the more we put it off, the more that anxiety builds. So funnily enough, when I came on here to do this video, I looked at the camera, and one of the things that I do to regulate myself before I speak on camera, I just kind of like pointed at the camera and did a little dance and did a little sing-song and try to just have a little bit of fun whilst looking at the camera to get my, that part of my brain, Frankenstein brain, fight and flight, survival brain, to realize that, hey, this is fine. You're safe. This is fine. And yeah, so anyway, I was really struggling today, and here's what I've learned from this, or let's say it's a reminder, because there are things that we've heard a million times or we already know, but a lot of this is just about being reminded, either by others or by ourselves, what it is, how we need to respond to what's going on right now, right? When we're in overwhelm, when we're struggling, when we're in meltdown. And so anyway, one of the things was that I went off and looked at some videos on content creation, and I came across a guy called, I think, Alex Hormozai, I think his name is, and the video was something like, how to grow an audience when you have like 0 followers. Now I don't have 0 followers. I'm doing okay, I guess. Could do a lot better on YouTube, but I definitely want to build up the channel. And as I was saying earlier, and so I watched this video, but his video was applicable to anyone, just life generally. And it was really about, what really struck home was when he said, don't focus so much on the outcome, but focus on doing the thing to get there. Focus on the process, which is what I'm always talking about with my clients, focusing on the process. And he actually spoke to someone and said, even if this takes 10 years, he said, as long as we're progressing. And that, I think it was a sales rep perhaps, or a coach, said to him, wow, that's the first time anyone's ever said that. And I like that because that's a philosophy that I've taken. I think in a previous video on success and ADHD, I talked about that. And this is something I'm always helping my clients to develop a growth mindset and focus on progress rather than outcome. Rather than, are we there yet? Are we moving forward? Yes, we are. Focus on that. Look how far you've come despite your struggles, and maybe, for example, you didn't know that you had ADHD autism, but look how far you've come. Focus on that. Anyway, I watched this video and it really inspired me, and it reminded me of what I already know, but hearing it from someone that's done very successfully with his channel. And so that was part of the process of getting unstuck. And then I started to contemplate this, and I realized, and this happens a lot, when you start to realize you're in a process, rather than, again, focusing on the outcome. Oh, I need to get this content done. Focus on the process. I have the exact same thing when I'm working with a client. I can be in a session with a client and I can sometimes feel stuck. And I realize what's happening is I'm almost falling into the same, which is part of the job, is to empathize with the client and see where they're coming from. But you can kind of get drawn in and start to believe what they believe and get stuck in there with them. And then when you have this realization, I have to remind myself, wait a minute, I'm reflecting back what's going on with the client. This isn't me. I am reflecting back the client. This is like what they call the mirror neurons in the brain, right? And so the trick is mindfulness. Take a deep breath, be present, and take that higher perspective. Remember, we're in a process. So don't focus on the outcome so much as the process and doing the thing that you need to do. In therapy coaching, that would be remaining present. My main job is not to fix the client's challenges and problems. My job is to be present, ask the right questions, and be open to possibility, because the clients come to me, feeling stuck, but wants to experience the possibilities. And of course, they may not feel like that's possible, but there must be an inkling that it's possible. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got in touch with me, and we wouldn't be there being with each other. So it's really about being present, being aware. And when you do that, you're able to then take like a higher perspective, come back into the moment, and not be attached to the story, and realize that, yes, there's this stuckness, but you're able to pivot. One of the things I learned recently in the training I'm doing on trauma, pendulation. It's like a pendulum. It's being able to swing. We can have anxiety, but in another part of our body, there may be a part of our body that feels neutral or relaxed. And if we kind of focus on that, we realize that there's more to the bigger picture. And so this ability to pivot or to flow. There's a saying, taking the rough with the smooth. And I was saying that to myself earlier with what I was going through today, this process that I was going through with getting really overwhelmed about content creation. And anyway, so the point is, that happens when I'm with a client, and it happens when I'm trying to make a piece of content. So here's the thing I learned, kind of like a process that I go through, that I'd like to share with you that you could use and apply in your own way to your life, because we're all different, and I'm just sharing with you what I do that works. But there are some principles here that I think are true, that are also based in neuroscience. And but the way you do it is going to be individual to you. So what happened was that the first part of the process is to be what I call kind of passive. And I decided, okay, I'm just going to sit with my emotions, how I feel in my body about this struggle that I'm having right now, this overwhelm. And so that's kind of like mindfulness, just being present. And I sat in my body, or should I say, be aware of my body, just focusing on my breathing, that kind of thing, accepting what I'm feeling, and just letting it be okay, or not okay, as the case may be. And so that was the first stage. You see, sometimes we're wanting to push, and try and fix, and try and solve, and just get the thing done, or get to the outcome, right? But I think, especially when you have ADHD and autism, when you're neurodivergent, we can't do it the same way as everyone else. Sometimes we do need to slow down so that we can go faster. Sometimes we do need to put the foot on the brake. But by doing that, we'll be able to get unstuck. And in fact, we're not really stuck. By doing that, we realize we're in a process, just like I was describing earlier, right? With a client. Just like I was describing earlier, we're actually in a process. And so the point is that allowing oneself to feel that, allowing oneself to feel stuck, but knowing that's not the end of the story. That's not the be all and end all. So I'll do that first, and how that looks for different people is going to be different depending on what you do. It could be mindfulness, meditation. There's some audio brainwave entrainment stuff that I use called I Awake. You might want to kind of check that out. They have a load of amazing free tracks. I've really been using these quite a lot recently. You get, I think it's 5 or 6 free tracks, and they're really high quality, and they really help you to meditate super easily, because the sound frequencies kind of guide you into that meditative, mindful state. And I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Something you might want to check out as a tool that I think you'll find helpful. And so I do something like that. I might do a somatic exercise. The 3-2-1 reset is really simple but really good. Just kind of like take 3 deep breaths, put your hands on your arms like that, close your eyes, and just do that for a minute, and just focus on your breathing and notice how you feel inside your body. So some kind of exercise like that. And so that's the phase one, is like the acceptance. And then I move into phase two. Phase two is once I've allowed myself to feel what I feel and accept it, to slow down, then I will move into a process that is similar to what I use with clients in solution-focused hypnotherapy every day. But I use the same techniques and processes with myself. So what does that technique look like, that process? That process is seeing the bigger picture, being able to pivot, being able to pendulate and realize, yes, there's this anxiety, this overwhelm, and yet there is also more going on. So can I find that neutral space? Can I find that sense of relaxation in a part of my body or whatever? And another way of thinking about that pendulating or pivoting or seeing the bigger picture is sometimes we're focusing on what's going wrong, but we're not focusing on what's going right. We're focusing on how we feel stuck, but we're not focusing on our resources. So for example, I'll go through this process of asking myself, okay, what good things have been happening recently? And I start to think about those. Or questions like, what is going right at the moment? And realize there are some things that are going right. And maybe having a think about my resources. But either way, these questions will help you to become more resourceful. And I'll also think about maybe what I feel grateful for. These kinds of positive questions that reorientate you in a positive direction. And then finally, I will kind of come back to the challenge of the day. That maybe was where I was getting overwhelmed. And the question would be something along the lines of, what one small thing could I do that would help me to move in the right direction? Maybe it's talking to someone. Maybe it's doing a little bit of research on this challenge of mine. And that's kind of what I did today, right, with the videos. And these few videos came up and they were all really, really helpful. So thank you everyone for putting wonderful content out there. And hopefully my content is as good or will be as good as yours one day. And the goal is to help lots of people with it. Anyway, we need those reminders. Even if we know that thing, sometimes it helps to hear it in a different way from a different person or someone we trust. And to have that reminder, the reminders are important. It's not just about what you know, it's about reminding yourself of what you know. And being open to what you don't know as well. And so that's the process. Passive acceptance, and then moving into that positive reorientation, which is solution-focused and more cognitive. And so when we do it like that, rather than just trying to go in and fix it, when we do both, it's like listening to someone. If we just tell someone to be positive, take a deep breath and be calm, it often makes it worse. So we just listen to what's going on in the body, and then we move into that positive reorientation, that solution-focused mode. If we do it like that, it's a lot easier, especially when you're neurodivergent, because we need that extra space, we are more sensitive, and we do get more easily overwhelmed and so on. And so we need some really good strategies or processes or ways of relating to ourselves that help us to do that. And it doesn't mean you're never going to get overwhelmed again or ever have a meltdown. It means you're going to respond differently to it. In fact, that's one of the things that my clients often tell me. Hey, Jamie, I still struggle with this, but now I know how to respond in a different way. And that response is what I call responsibility. The ability to respond. Response, ability. And that means even in your overwhelm, even in these meltdowns and so on, even when it all seems to be falling apart, it's taking that bigger bird's eye perspective. Where it helps if you slow down to get that perspective. Slow down, get that perspective. You take a deep breath, and it helps to, however you do it, to slow down, take that bigger perspective, and then you're able to notice what it is that you previously weren't noticing. And when you do, you see the bigger picture, and it's like the other pieces of the jigsaw puzzle can come into place. And that's what happened today. And this is a ridiculously long video. This is why I don't tend to like to do these things off the top of my head, but I've really enjoyed this, and that's what happened today, is that by going through this process today, it's come full circle. it's been processed, and we've seen the bigger picture. In one sense, that's what making content is about, right? Or being able to teach, or share with people your learnings and what you do. There's a difference between, for example, being able to play an instrument and being able to teach it to someone, or being a coach and be able to share that with people. Like, a lot of the time I'm doing things with myself or with my clients that I just do in many ways without thinking about how I do it. So a lot of things that just almost just become, natural, unconscious patterns, just like riding a bike. And so the process of sharing it is, again, that bird's eye perspective, standing back and saying, how is it that I do what I do? What are the steps involved in that? And being able to translate that and share it with someone else. And that's exactly the process that we're in when we get into overwhelm or meltdown. It's realizing the bigger picture. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful. Please like and subscribe and stay in touch. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.